Hello and welcome for the love of food. Today we're going to be making something with these lovely red tomatoes. I have decided that I want to make spinach stuffed tomatoes. Doesn't that sound fantastic? So tonight we're going to have an Italian meal and I thought this would be a great side dish. So what's going to go into my stuffed tomatoes? Well, we're going to need cheese, of course. So we are going to use some feta cheese, you can see here. And we're also going to be using some grated Italian cheese. You know that I like to use Parmigiano Reggiano, right? We also will be adding in some breadcrumbs and a little bit of the reserved tomato juice. Now, what I did was I scooped out, I cut the tops off my tomatoes, and then I scooped them out, and then there's all the inside of the tomato. We're not going to use that. We're just going to set that aside. We'll find some other use for it when we make a marinara sauce or something like that, but really it doesn't pertain today. Then what we did was we took a bag of fresh spinach and we put it in a pan with a little bit of garlic and of course some olive oil. And then we just sweated out that spinach and garlic slowly on low heat so that we ended up with this lovely, as you can see, bowl of greens. Now, it's also going to need some spices, right? So I've got a teaspoon of basil. We all know basil goes great with tomatoes. I like garlic in my house, so we're going to use a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. And we will then also use a quarter teaspoon of, and I'll show you that to you, a quarter teaspoon of onion powder. So how we're going to do this is we're just going to take our bowl. We're going to mix our ingredients together. We're going to add in just a little bit of white wine. No, that's not just for drinking. So a splash of white wine just to give it some brightness and a little acidity as well. All right, so we'll just take our spinach, put it in our mixing bowl. Let's make sure we get all the garlic. And now we have the spinach in the bowl. We're going to take our rest of our ingredients. I'm going to put them in there. Our tomato juice that we reserved. Our spices. And our splash of white wine. Splash. And we're just going to mix that all together, and that is going to make, I'll show it to you here, that makes our stuffing. And it already smells delicious. I always say this, I wish we had smell-o-vision because it smells fantastic. All right, so that's mixed together. You can see that. The other thing we need to do is we need to take our tomatoes and salt them well. So we salt them, and I already did a little bit beforehand, so I would add a little more salt than that normally. And then these have to be turned over onto a paper towel like this to let that water kind of drain out and the juices drain out. So we'll set them both on the paper towel and then we will just let them be for a little bit. We will wait about 30 minutes. We'll preheat our oven to 375 and then we will stuff the tomatoes with this wonderful, delicious stuffing, and we'll bake them for about 30 to 35 minutes. If they look like they need a little bit longer, if you want them nice and brown on the top, then by all means you could bake them a little longer. When I do put them in to bake, I'm going to make sure that I set them on a nice sheet pan with either parchment paper or a silpat over it. And I will drizzle them with just a little bit more olive oil. So we'll do that and we'll show you what that looks like when we get to that. Hi, we're back. So let's go ahead and stuff these bad boys, shall we? So here we are. We're going to go ahead and take our filling and just hold our tomato right over the pan. This is the least messy way of doing this. And just go ahead and flop all that filling right in there like that. See how beautiful that is? All right, we're going to set that down just to make sure that we have enough filling for both of them. Let's do the same thing here. We may end up with a little bit extra, and that's okay because I might be able to freeze it and use it another time. Because one of the ways that you can do this, if you didn't want a whole stuffed tomato, is you could do slices. You could cut the tomato and then just lay them on your pan and then put the stuffing on top and cook them that way too. So let's see if that's enough to save. And it is. So I'm just going to reserve that and freeze it. And I'll adjust my recipes to show the yield of probably 3 tomatoes, even though we only need 2. I'm going to place them here on my silpat. And I'm just going to, again, add a little more salt. And then we're going to go ahead and drizzle olive oil all over the tops of those. And we're going to bake them at 375 degrees. We'll be back to show you our finished product. So these just came out of the oven after 30 minutes. Look how beautiful those are. I'm going to go ahead and plate those up, and then we will take a picture and post that with the recipe. Thanks for watching For the Love of Food.